Checking the emails. Derek TV guys, I love listening to your show. It makes me laugh and is full of witty comedy. My question for you is why do you not spend more time talking about my favorite subject, soccer? Sincerely, Paul Delano. Dear Paul, thank you for your monosyllabic email. The answer to your question is very short. Soccer is terrible. Nobody likes soccer. No one has ever liked soccer. In the most popular TV show that is about soccer, they put a lot of effort into avoiding showing even a few seconds of soccer. They spend more time in that show showing Coach Beard come down from a mushroom high than they do about soccer. So to answer your question, soccer is terrible. And you should feel terrible. TV guys.
Oh, hey, Matt. Matt, do you need some Mountain Dew? It's 2002. You come home from school. You go down to the only computer in the house that has internet. George Lopez reruns are playing in the background. Kazaa is slowly killing your computer with a virus while you're trying to download a Green Day CD. You go on homestarrunner.com. There's no new episode. Sad. So you post a little bit on the Muppet Central forums, and then you go to badgerbadgerbadger.com again. Life is good. Hey guys, I'm Matt. I'm leaving that in.
And I'm Brian.
After 100 episodes, Matt finally let me do that. And you know what, guys? I did it right, but we talked for half an hour before we started recording, and then we have to redo it again.
So we're going to fake our reactions to what the other person's saying like it's the first time. Like, wow, what unique insight. I would have never thought of that.
Exactly. You're getting our acting skills now.
That's acting.
So we're talking about early internet in the early 2000s. This was kind of an off-brand from Exactly TV, but it's an episode I wanted to do, and I badgered Matt until he let me do it.
Which I have no problem about because this is a really great time. There's a lot of content that was around early 2000s and like thank God for high speed internet because like back then you're like, oh, let me go ahead and click on this video and let it buffer for 15 minutes before I'd even have a chance to like watch it. But now you can get it just like that.
And this is before you had all the video game walkthroughs and like the people making $1 million doing the game YouTubes. This was when like YouTube and all that stuff was new. And even outside of YouTube, people just made their own websites using like Flash animation, like HomestarRunner.com. It was just like the Wild West free for all of internet as it was just newly becoming commonplace for people to have it in their houses.
Yeah, it felt like every decade since the inception of the internet was like, what can we do with this? And there was always a couple new things in each decade that like, oh, we can do that. Like the very first was like, I can actually be connected with someone and send them a message, and then like to understand what we can do through email and like connectivity in the 90s, and then like to finally get to, well, what about content? And like because 90s websites were like, well, we need a website, so Pepsi, we're gonna have a website. It's just going to show Pepsi, and it's going to be like you're clicking on it and it's like a commercial, but it's not going to be have any video. It's just going to have pictures of Pepsi. That's our website. We don't know what to do with it. And then like they release, these companies start to figure out what can we do with the content. And early 2000s really when we started seeing actual entertainment content being put onto the internet, and people like you and me were able to get a hold of that and start it ourselves.
Yeah. And we mentioned earlier the big one, at least for Matt and I, that we remember back when we were early teenagers was homestarrunner.com. And even though it's called Homestar Runner, it's all about Strong Bad.
Yeah. There's that subsection that's strong bad emails. Homestar Runner was you can explain it a little bit better, but like if you're looking at like YouTube and like YouTube channels, Homestar Runner was kind of like that. It was like its own type of channel run by a certain production company. Whether I don't know how many people they had doing this, but it had to be at least a couple of them.
Crew, yeah.
Yeah, it would be a small crew, but you know, more than just one guy. Whereas like some of the other stuff I have, there might be just like one guy who was doing this himself.
Actually, it might have just been a couple guys. There was the Brothers Chaps, and I know one of them did most of the animation, and the other one did the voices, and then one of their wives did the female voices. And I think they may have had a few other people, but it was a small crew. And Homestar was this character He was kind of like a dim-witted, naive guy who talked like this. I'm Homestar, and is the only character in history who I'm okay with that speech impediment. I mean, it's real, then you can't control it, but like in media when they're faking it, like I didn't like the guy in Big Bang Theory who did that. That was annoying.
Yeah.
Homestar, I don't mind.
Yeah, he's kind of
And
like an Adam Sandler type, but like he's a bit more optimistic. Where he's doofy,
yeah,
but like a naive sort of doofy.
yes. And then Strong Bad, one of the characters, like as you mentioned, he was this short little guy who had boxing gloves and a big ego and his big mask on. He'd be like, "I'm awesome. I like all the cool guy stuff that all the hot ladies like me." Like that's just basically his personality. Even though
Let us
he's
know how bad or how good either of our strong bads were. I don't feel like yours was good, Brian, but I don't know if mine was good or if it was terrible.
I think yours
actually
was
want to
better,
know.
but yeah, equally bad. But the thing with that, it was interactive. I tried to email Strong. I did email Strong Bad a couple times. He didn't pick my emails, but he's answering actual emails and playing with the typos in the way you word it. Like the one guy, it was something like Johnny Well, Ontario. Everyone is Johnny Well on, and he said so. During the email intro, you heard this faint buzzing like in the background, and he gets the end of like Johnny Well on. Oh, I left my Johnny Well on. He types in Johnny Well off, and then the machine noise goes,
Yeah,
which is really clever.
it's a great irreverent sort of humor that he had, and I said this in the first go around, so it bears repeating
Yeah.
because we have to talk about Muppets. But it like Strong Bad feels like a Muppet type character, and like all these characters kind of feel like that, where it's this
Mm.
irreverent humor that has a lot of fun with the material that they're given, and has like these they satirize emails,
Mm.
they satirized like the responses to emails, and it was a unique format that they went with.
And even they made songs like their song about Trogdor the Burninator, the dragon with a big beefy arm on his back who would burninate the countryside and burninate the peasants. That song made it into Guitar Hero, as you said.
Yes.
That's Matt's tidbit, but I took it the second time around.
And that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm a big strong man. I love Strong Bad because he had this great way of like highlighting these jokes in the emails that like what they could create out of pretty much nothing. I remember some emails were like only 2 sentences long.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this other email where it's like it was maybe like 4 or 5 sentences. And he was like, "Well, good thing you didn't have a page break or indent at all in this, or else it would have gotten past my long email filter." And then he
Mm-hmm.
took out like this whiteout pen and like he like crossed out so much of the email. He's like, that's better. And then he made like a completely new email meaning something way different than
Yeah.
what the original email was supposed to be.
Yep. And he would do that with not by editing on the he was like white out on the screen.
Yes.
And
Do you
then
remember the vocabulary one where like all I remember out of it was like him teaching kids like big words like gelatinous.
yeah. Oh, I remember that. And then there was a character called the Big Gelatinous Blob.
Yes. I don't remember much more besides that, but when I think of strong bad emails, that's the episode that always comes to mind.
I think of Trogdor or the virus. So at one point, he's had three different computers that were over the course of time. And at one point, he's like ran his like Edgar, the virus checker, and it came back. Remember the delivery's like 487,000 viruses. Computer over. Virus equals very yes. And it turns to like that blue screen of death. It turns into literal water that just fades. And he eventually has to shoot the computer with a shotgun because it gets meta because they're a cartoon on a website and his computer within the website has a virus, so then everyone starts glitching around him, and so to put their world back together they have to euthanize his computer with a shotgun.
The virus part sounds it's like that rings a bell. This is what I want to hear out of this episode. I want for us as we're talking for you guys to be like, I think I remember something like that, because we have a lot of listeners that are in our age bracket, and so we have some shared experiences that you're familiar with, and hopefully we're going to be touching on a lot of those that you're like, I had forgotten about that. So this was one of those things like, yeah, I can vaguely remember that specific episode.
Yeah. And do you remember one of the characters in Homestar was Coach Z, and his thing is he would always never pronounce words correctly. Like he'd always say, instead of saying "good job," he'd like good job. And he couldn't say the word job. It's such a dumb gag. So many times over the past like 20 years, I've wanted to jokingly say someone, great job, but they're realizing they're not going to get that reference.
You're like 16. You don't know Homestar Runner. The shelf life of like Homestar Runner and some of these other things we're going to talk about, I don't feel like they lasted past a decade because it was like this time capsule for that early 2000s. And that's why a lot of people, if you're younger than us by at least 10 years, you probably aren't going to know some of the stuff that we're talking about.
No.
Hopefully you do. Hopefully you're like, hey, I did catch some of that. But it really was in this limited time frame. And then society shifted again and we started getting our own content in YouTube. So
yeah. So moving on from Homestar, Matt, what's your next website?
Another website I'm going to talk about is Newgrounds. Newgrounds is like one of the first that I can think of these big user creative sites where there's a lot of videos, a lot of games that you could upload, that people like you and me could actually upload our own stuff onto these pages. And you had like all these people that they were just learning Flash. So you had a lot of videos that were like, these are cheesy or they're like 30 seconds long. There's some that are like 5 minutes long. But it was like pre-YouTube. You hadn't seen something quite like this. And so people actually being able to try and be famous and get their own videos. And it was very memey at the time too, before we even really knew what a meme was. Like I can't tell you how many videos I clicked on that in the middle of it, all of a sudden this banana pops up and it goes, it's peanut butter jelly time, and he's like dancing like that banana singing peanut butter jelly time got so much mileage, especially on Newgrounds. I have no idea where it first came from, but I saw it in like 30 different videos.
Yeah, and that lasted a while, that peanut butter jelly, because that's the one that goes peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat, right?
Yep, that's the one. I like watched all these. I don't know why, but like I first got in, like I played Resident Evil and like I loved Resident Evil, and so I was on Newgrounds. I was like, there's a Resident Evil section, so I watched like all these Resident Evil videos, and there are some that were just like so stupid, but then there are some that was like they combined like Mario and like the Mario characters in a Resident Evil thing. And one of the times Mario gets into this one room and all of a sudden like the peanut butter jelly banana guy drops from the ceiling and like he's the zombie and he's like dancing around and he ends up like killing him with the peanut butter jelly. So it was so weird and absurd and off the wall, but it's like some 15-year-old made this and was so proud of it and thought this was the funniest joke.
And you know what? Who's to say it's not?
I mean, I laughed.
Yeah.
But then again, I was also a lot dumber than I am now. But hey, maybe I still would laugh. I don't know. I can't act too holier than thou.
Yeah. You know, one video that went around, was really popular around this time, and this will just be really quick. It's Chocolate Rain, which is like this guy. And I think the joke was that he looked like the really skinny, scrawny kid, but his voice was super deep, like James Earl Jones. And he would go like, Chocolate Rain. And this whole thing, he'd like lean away from the mic to breathe. We didn't hear it. It's like this clear audio. And I don't remember any of the lyrics besides Chocolate Rain and blah, 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 blah.
Others feel the pain.
Yeah, the word pain was in there somewhere. Like no one was listening to anything he said besides the words Chocolate Rain. And it was just one of those like kind of joking viral videos that went around. And like, oh, I remember it was just recently, it was like YouTubers, or they have people reacting to old famous YouTube videos. And one of them, they had that guy, Tay Zonday, and they didn't tell him that his video was on the list, and he got to blind react to his own video.
I remember me doing this. That's a nuts like claim to fame, like that, and the Maya.
That's
like
on my
that guy,
list. The Numa guy.
Numa. That's it.
You guys can't see us, but you know he's doing this with his arms pumping up in the head, and he's like his face is getting into it. He's like, you know, I used to be able to do it so well. It was like, yeah, Numa, because it's like a German song, right? It was a song first, and then he made that video. He brought that video to us in the form of that video.
Yeah, and it's just like him unabashedly going after this song. Now, this isn't like a site. This is just, again, a meme of someone doing this and like it just catching fire. And it was like the power of some of these viral videos was insane.
All right. I think the next one of the other big ones, this was really big for me. And I specifically remember It came out in 2006, and I'll tell you why I remember that in a minute here, which was Charlie the Unicorn. Did you watch the Charlie the Unicorn
Oh
series?
my gosh. Now there are some that people are like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this. And you watch it and you're like, why am I watching this? And that was Charlie the Unicorn for me.
Charlie the Unicorn was hilarious. Charlie the Unicorn was this grumpy unicorn, and these two, and I don't think they even got names. They were just like the blue and red unicorns. Were like, Charlie, Charlie, we're going to Candy Mountain, Charlie. He's like, just leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep. And they're trying to, they eventually get him. And they like random stuff like this weird, like crazy monster. And like, it's a Leopleurodon, Charlie, a magical Leopleurodon. And like these like unnervingly peppy unicorns. At this part, I feel like I'm just quoting it, but this will be important in a moment. They go over a bridge. It's just a normal bridge. And
there will be a test later.
Yes, there will be a test. And they stop and they're like, we're on a bridge, Charlie. A magical bridge where it's full of hope and wonder. And they eventually get to there's actually a Candy Mountain. And Charlie's even like, oh, there actually is a Candy Mountain. And like the Candy Mountain, like the letters of the word candy come to life. They dance around. It's like, welcome to Candy Mountain. And then eventually he goes into a cave that's dark. And he hears this thud. And all of a sudden he wakes up with a scar. He's like, oh, they took my friggin' kidney.
What a stupid video.
But I remember it was 2006 because it's when I graduated high school. And me and my cousin.
And so both of those two, the video and graduating high school, they were equal amounts of priority in Brian's eyes.
This is me and my cousins were obsessed with this. And we would all the time in every situation be like, we're in a car, a magical car full of hope and wonder. And like that was just like our inside joke. And I remember I went to Universal Studios with my cousins. And I remember we're on the Hulk roller coaster, like going like 70 miles an hour over the flips and everything. I look over to my cousin who's next to me. I'm like, trying to yelling so they can hear me. Dad, we're on a roller coaster, a magical roller coaster full of hope and wonder. And that was like our joke for way too long.
Yeah. Yeah, way too long. Any amount of time is way too long. I just want to put that out there. You know what's a better video on its own than that? I've got websites I want to talk about, but a standalone video was Charlie Bit My Finger. That's a better Charlie video.
No, it's equal.
That one.
Equal.
And that's a short one. It's just like two really young kids, and they have accents, and I think
British,
they're Australian
or British. One of those. They sound
somewhere
similar.
And yeah, it's really hard to tell, especially with kids. But you know, one of them's like a baby, and the other one's like probably 4 or 5. And the baby is Charlie, and so they're like being cute together as their brothers. And then Charlie bites the older brother's finger. He's like, "Ouch, Charlie! Charlie, that hurt! Oh, Charlie bit my finger!" Like the whole thing. It's just super cute, and it's one of those, like, I don't know why this is as funny as it is, but it's really is sold because of the cuteness of the kids.
Yeah, it is. Everybody knew that video, and it's crazy to think those kids are probably adults now. Who knows?
Yeah, they're like, I am so sick of Charlie with my finger.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Going through my list. Okay, I kind of along the same lines of Charlie the Unicorn. I'm not sure if it's the same company or the same group that made it. Do you remember Llamas with Hats?
Vaguely.
Okay. It's just basically these 2 llamas, and the one's named Carl, and it's always like Carl's doing these horrible things. And like Carl, why? Like there's a dead human in our house. And it's like, oh, I guess there is. And it's like, well, what happened? Well, he came in, and I stabbed him 37 times in the chest. And he's like, Carl, that kills people. And it's like, why are his hands missing? What hands? His hands, they're missing. Oh, well, I guess I cooked them up and ate them. You know, when you get a hankering for hands, you know, and it's just a dumb video. They made like 4 of them, and everyone got to be so bad to the point where like Carl the unicorn, or Carl the llama, somehow destroyed a town with a nuclear bomb and had everyone's faces cut off and turned into balloons. And it just got more horrifying, where he's just like, what's wrong with that?
So there's different ways you can segue off of this, because there's a lot of like horrid, like there's kind of this absurd, violent, gory side of the internet too. Like Newgrounds had plenty of that for sure.
Ooh, yeah.
But we can talk about like you talk about Happy Tree Friends. That's a series that was
Oh yeah, I
in
totally
this
forgot about Happy
time.
Tree Friends.
Happy Tree Friends was not my cup of tea. I'm not gonna like talk about like the good times I had with it, but it was like all these cute animals, but in every video they get brutally murdered, and there's a like gore. And no, it's animated and it's like cutesy animation, but there is a lot of blood, a lot of gore, and a lot of violence in it. And like
Mhm.
that's kind of the point, is the juxtaposition of that violence in the middle of like these happy, fun time, happy tree friends. And that like was this huge thing.
Mhm.
I never liked it. If you liked it, let us know, but that was not my thing.
That was more gory, and if you go the more creepy route, there was also Salad Fingers. Do you
That
remember
was the
that?
other one I was going to talk about, Salad
Yep.
Fingers.
Yep, Salad. I don't remember all the details, but Salad Fingers would talk like this and say the most creepy things you could ever imagine. Like, maybe you could climb into the oven with your supple little frame. I think that was one of the lines.
Yeah. There was a film theory, if you know that YouTube channel, that he kind of jumped into some of like the lore of Salad Fingers, but like the lore of it is really very metaphorical and very stringy, you know, like it's barely tied together. But maybe that does exist, but the whole idea was it's really about the aesthetic. The aesthetic of Salad Fingers was like supposed to be goosebumps up your spine, sort of like skin crawling stuff. Like his voice itself was supposed to just really make you on edge. And while there weren't any like jump scares in it that I remember, or anything that you would see like maybe in a typical horror movie, the whole thing was the ambience of it was completely unsettling, and it was supposed to just stick with you past that. Like the imagery that they would use and the lines, like one that Brian gave, was supposed to stick with you past the video, and I think it did.
Mhm. I think so. And if you're okay, sticking with a little bit of the creepiness, but going more towards the comedy. I'm not going to explain this too much, and it's kind of be one of those, if you want to see it, look it up yourself. Do you remember what in the butt?
I've used that phrase before, but I didn't know that it was like from a video.
This is this guy, and I'm not going to talk the lyrics. The lyrics get very, very inappropriate, as you can imagine from the title. But the chorus of it is, "I said what in the butt? I said what in the butt?" And it got so popular that they actually spoofed it on South Park.
I've got one more like solo video, and then I can talk about some of my other series and other big websites. But the other solo video, just to briefly mention, was "All Your Base Are Belong to Us." Again, that was a meme video that is like, I don't know what game this is, but it took some like poorly dubbed poorly translated game, and in English the grammar is just so terrible, and so it shows like this cutscene from this game, and this bad guy is like holographs on the ship, and he's like, "You have no chance to survive, make your time, all your base are belong to us." And it's like, just and then the guy's response, "What you say?" Like terrible English dubbing. And then it created like a remix. We have these remixes now of like, you know, popular internet videos. It took a remix of the song of "All Your Bass" and it turned it into like this techno dubstep song. And it was ridiculous. It was stupid. But, you know, it was the early 2000s. That's what we did. We did memes. And memes inherently can be pretty stupid. So,
Yeah, I don't remember that one specifically, but I mean, it sounds like it fits right in with everything that we're talking about.
yep. Do you have any more like solo videos that you want to talk about?
That aren't a series.
Yeah.
Oh yes, one which called. Do you remember Nature Walk?
Uh-uh.
It's this guy. It's just like nerdy guy who would go into the woods, and he'd like basically his tagline was "That's neat," and they're like, "I like to, you know."
Oh, yes.
Yes, and he's like, "You know, nature is pretty neat, and we're gonna look at all the neat things." He's like, and he'd say like, "That's an aspen tree. You can tell it's an aspen tree because of the way it is." And he goes around. That's like all he explains. And at one point, he has a rifle, and he's like, "You know, sometimes you see bears, and that's why I always pack a gun. It's my way to say, hey, bear, I think you're neat, but I'd like you to keep your distance."
Those are some good lines. I kind of in my brain like will confuse that guy with the like, "Would you look at that guy?"
Mm-hmm. I think. Oh yeah, they're very similar.
Yeah. So if I'm trying to picture him, I'm probably picturing the other one.
Maybe. Do you remember? Oh, so go ahead.
Go ahead.
AskANinja.com.
That is on my list. Ask a Ninja.
Yes.
I loved Ask a Ninja.
Oh,
he
so
was
did I.
great.
Yes.
I look forward to killing you soon.
It was his sign off line. My favorite one was when he was just tearing apart. Apparently, he did not like Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest.
That is definitely his best video. I'm gonna save you a little bit of time and just spoil one little thing about the movie. It is a terrible movie.
Yeah. It's like they wrote 4 different scripts, put them all into a shotgun, and fired it, and had some intern go around and grab pieces of paper and just piece together what was left, and they made that into Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest.
And even that, then they would change on the day of shooting. Today he shows up and he's a pirate.
Everybody's a pirate. If you're in the first movie and you're not a pirate, you are now a pirate in this movie, which is actually pretty accurate.
Yes. I mean, there's also the part of it, like, there's this lore of like ninjas hating pirates too. And I wonder if like that was a part of like he's feeding into that. But man, he really tore that movie a new one. Mm-hmm. It was you're right that is his best episode for sure.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a Ask a Ninja line where he's like, well, look behind you. Do you see those 30 ninjas? Well, they see you.
I like the one who's like someone, and this is another one like Strong Bad where you actually could email him and he'd answer real questions. There's one is like, dear Ask a Ninja, what is the best way to kill a ninja? I don't know about you, but I don't believe that is a kind thing to ask someone how to kill them. And like he's just offended about the whole idea, the concept.
Or someone asked.
When I kill someone, I can't ask them if they enjoyed the way that I killed them because they're dead. But
someone asked them, "Is it possible to meet you without you killing me?" Like anything's possible, but it is not very likely.
He's great. Ask a Ninja is one of those, like, if you've not heard of it, it's worth checking out. At least, like, Ask a Ninja, you can find it on YouTube. Ask a Ninja, Pirates of the Caribbean. That is the best video. I don't do this often, but you need to go watch that. That is a great video. Let's pump up those numbers. They probably have like 1 million like views on YouTube because this was on another site before YouTube, and then they put some more stuff on YouTube. But it probably was only at like 1 million, but still, go.
I subscribed to the Ask a Ninja video podcast on my video iPod back in the day.
Ooh, look at you!
Yeah,
big.
They don't even make iPods anymore.
Another great series that actually had tremendous production value and it is astounding what they did with this series, especially later on, because they actually divided it into seasons, and it was the first time of seeing like machinima used where they would film in a video game engine.
Ooh, I think
Red versus
Blue. Yep.
Yeah. Red vs. Blue is hilarious. It started off mocking Halo. It had its own story a little bit, but it was a very loose story in the first season. And the story was really just to be a satire of the Halo universe. So it was like, they pull up in the Warthog in like the 3rd episode, and it's like, well, it looks like a puma to me. Like, what? No, this is a Warthog. Well, why do you call it a Warthog? And so like then they're going back and forth of like why it's actually a Warthog, and like the dialogue is so funny. They're just mocking things in universe. But after the first season, they're like, this is really caught on. We need to actually develop some like good storyboards, and they did that with the second season. With like, what are we doing in this second season? And from then on, they actually had really high production value. And if you see some of the later seasons, they went from just like doing stuff in universe, which they did do that as camera, but they would also do their own like CGI of different fights, like to create the action scenes to make them bigger than what you saw in the first couple of seasons.
I never watched a ton later on in Red vs. Blue, but I watched the beginning of it, and obviously that stemmed from like Halo was the game. I mean, I think it got replaced by Call of Duty, and I'm not sure if it's Fortnite now, probably, but like it's Halo was the game at the time, and so you get anything branded with Halo, then that's it's money.
Yeah. Plus, these guys were really funny. Like their banter in it was just so good. Their characters that they decided to make were really good. Of all the things that we've talked about, I would say like Red vs. Blue is the one that, and I think that they have their seasons on like Netflix or some sort of streaming service. You can probably find Red vs. Blue, and watch all of them.
That's what the great thing we're at about our time now in the internet in 2022 is you can think of, what happened to that show that was on 30 years ago? It's probably streaming somewhere.
Yeah. You mentioned George Lopez, and that's on Peacock TV, and I've been watching a little bit of George Lopez too.
Yep. I watched a little bit of Family Matters yesterday.
Look at you. I'm today I watched Schitt's Creek. I watched Schitt's Creek and The Office.
That's been on my list. I've seen bits and pieces of that show, and I know I would like it. I just haven't gotten around to watching it. And so if I go around and watching it, maybe that could be a future episode at some point.
Yeah, it's solid. It's not in the spot of like a Mike Schur show for me, but it's solid humor, and it's very bingeable for sure.
I'm going to quote when it comes to that kind of stuff, Jeff Winger on Community, because he said I forget what he said. He said about religion. He said, it's like Paul Rudd. I see the appeal, and I wouldn't take it away from anybody, but I wouldn't stand in line for it. And that's how I feel about Schitt's Creek.
There you go. That's fine for that. Like I think after having watched 3 seasons, I'm almost at the end of the 3rd season. That is definitely a spot for me of like it's funny, and I'm glad I watched it, but it's not top tier.
Yeah. So I got one more on my list. How many do you have?
Same here. I've got one more big site.
Okay, you go first? I want to end with mine because it's stupid.
Mine is obscure. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and I don't know if there's anyone out there who's familiar with it, but it's like a more obscure Newgrounds. It's called stickdeath.com.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
You do remember. Good.
Yes.
There's a lot of these videos. So it was just pretty much people making videos with stick figures in them. And a lot of times these stick figures would die because stickdeath.com. And sometimes they were really brutal. Sometimes they were just ridiculous. Sometimes they were really funny. I just remember I when I found Stick Death, I like went on this binge watching spree, and I watched so many videos from it. And I really enjoyed it. I think there was also games on it like Newgrounds. So it was that same sort of idea as Newgrounds, but like everything had stick figures in it.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics. I do remember that because it's just so simple. Like you can entertain people with stick figures, and that's all you need.
Yeah, there was one that was like really well done where it's like it showed like this 4-story building but from the side, so you got to see every single story like it was like a platforming video game. And this one stick guy comes in, and it's all very fast paced to like some really like upbeat music, not upbeat, but like, action packed music. And there has to be at a certain point by the end of this video, there had to have been like 100 other stick figures of the other like bad guys in this building, but he goes floor by floor like doing these karate moves against all these guys that just keep appearing out of nowhere and popping up. And like it sounds stupid, but the fight choreography of this stick figure versus all these other stick figures was really unique. I'm like, this is actually pretty cool. I don't know, that was 13-year-old me, so maybe me watching it now I would be like, okay, whatever. But back then I was really impressed by it, and that video stood out to me.
Yeah. So mine is one. Actually, I mentioned it in my intro. Do you know what badgerbadgerbadger.com is?
I don't know what badgerbadgerbadger.com is.
It's this. I don't know if you want to call it a song or like a chant. It's on a loop. You go to the website. It's like got an animation from Flash, and it will just literally loop forever. And so we're gonna get Matt's live reaction as I do an impression of the Badger. Okay, you log on. Terrible. And there's badgers who are like jumping up and down, and it goes badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom, badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom, a badger, 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 mushroom, mushroom, a badger, 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 snake, snake, it's a snake. And it's a badger vet, and it goes over and over. I watched that for an hour straight one time.
Oh my gosh. What is wrong with it? That reminded me of like the one, there's like, I don't know if it was early 2000s. Yeah, it probably was because it was in like college when it's like 2007, 2008 when I saw it. But it's like the Harry Potter one. Like there was a number of these, but like the one I'm thinking of.
Harry Potter's
like
Puppet
Puppets.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Snape.
Severus Snape. It's Dumbledore, Harry Potter, Hermione, Ron Weasley.
Yep, so that's what the vibe I got from your badgerbadger.com.
Mm-hmm. And it's better / worse. I mean, depending on your perspective, but it's just a catchy loop.
It's something. All right.
It's something. So, Matt, before we get into trivia, unless you have anything else.
Nope, that's it.
We have some announcements to make. First
do.
off, we need to shout out our guest host, Dan. He and his wife just had their second child. Okay. Number two, there's going to be a 30-year anniversary special for Power Rangers. I'm not sure if it's going to be its own special or if it's going to be like an episode of the current show, but we have confirmation that both David Yost, who played Billy, the original Blue Ranger, and Walter Jones, the original Black Ranger Zach, they are both going to be involved. So I'm excited. David Yost has not been back to Power Rangers since he left the show for being bullied for being gay, and hopefully he's on better terms now with the new management because it's been different people. But Billy was my favorite, and he's back. And Zach's cool, he's back. I'm hoping they're going to get some of the older original characters back. So whatever it is, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be excited to watch it.
There you go. I have nothing to add because I'm not as big of a Power Rangers fan as you are, sir.
Fair enough. Which is why we haven't done a Power Rangers episode of this podcast, although I do have ideas.
Which is always dangerous.
It is. One I think you will have ideas for, comments on, is we've officially been announced that there is a Community movie coming. 6 seasons and a movie. The movie is coming. So far, we don't know anything about the plot. All we know is that, I'm just going to use the character names, Jeff, Britta, Abed, Annie, Chang, and the Dean are confirmed. As of right now, there is no Donald Glover, Yvette Nicole Brown, or Chevy Chase. I don't think Chevy Chase is going to be in it because his character is dead, and he from all accounts, he was horrible to work with on the show. Yeah. But I really hope that we get Troy and Shirley back.
Yeah, I could see Donald Glover coming. Yeah, I don't know why we don't have Shirley booked on it yet. I don't feel like there's too much that she's doing that she couldn't come back. Donald Glover, he is a bigger celebrity, but he also, from different interviews of like how he's addressed Community, makes it sound like he still is like for Community, and if he can make it work, he wants to.
Yeah, he came back during COVID when like a lot of shows were doing Zoom reunions. They did a Zoom reunion where they did a table read, and Donald Glover did come back with that. I know there was tension between him and Chevy Chase because there was tension between everybody and Chevy Chase. But from all accounts, it seems like he's on good terms with the rest of the cast. And my guess is that it would just come down to scheduling.
Yeah, I don't feel like it would be as successful if we didn't have him.
No.
I mean, I feel like it would be successful with Chevy Chase, too, because Pierce definitely does have a role to play in that group dynamic.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's completely fine if we have more of, if Elroy comes back, if
Frankie
Brewster, whatever, Frankie, there you go,
or even Jonathan Banks. I mean, they kind of off screen in a visual gag killed him off, but they could always just say that was not the case. And I mean, the only actor on the show who's died in real life is Richard Erdman, who played Leonard. But I mean, I'd like to see a lot of the bring me Garrett and Starburns and like all those. I mean, I'm sure we'll see a handful of them too.
And the biology teacher from season 4.
Oh yes, Michael K. Williams passed away.
There you go. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say like, oh, I don't want to see him back. I'm like, no wait, he died too.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, let's get John Oliver back. He was always funny on that show.
I mean, I guess, and Betty White, she was in the second season. But I mean, like, she had, 3 episodes maybe?
As far as, like, characters who had actual arcs who were in multiple episodes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Betty White did have an arc. But again, it was maybe, 3 episodes.
2, I believe. I believe it was 2. Maybe it was 3, but it wasn't very long.
Wasn't much. You're right.
Whereas, like, Michael K. Williams was there for a season.
You know who also went back? Matt Berry. He was in only 1 episode, but Matt Berry is great. I want to see more Matt Berry.
Yeah. Or even Jack Black. I like Jack Black.
Jack Black. What? That was a great gag. Liked it. All right, so I want to see that. Community is one of those things that we would do an episode about the movie. I know it's kind of cheating, but what episode are you listening to? 2000s internet? Yeah. That's cheating. We're bending the rules. It's our podcast. We do what we want.
And right now, my expectations are I'm going to watch it, and I'm sure I'm going to like it. I don't have my hopes for being like the greatest, funniest thing in the world. I'm welcoming them to beat my expectations, but my expectations are at a kind of a mid-level right now, but I'm just excited that they're getting it.
On a scale of El Camino to Serenity, if it's somewhere in the middle of that, that's fine. El Camino was like a boring follow-up to Breaking Bad, and Serenity was great follow-up to Firefly. If it's somewhere in the middle, that's no problem to me.
Yeah. I think the middle of that would be the Even Stevens movie.
I'll
Because
take your word for it.
they didn't have enough of the cast. They had the family, but like they barely had any of like Twitty and Tawny and all the rest of them.
What if the middle of that is James Gunn's Scooby Doo?
I don't know.
That's different because it's not the same cast. It's
You stumble
completely different.
upon a podcast ranking movie adaptations of TV shows.
I mean, there's a lot out there because we could talk about the live action Flintstones. We could talk about some of those things. I definitely would bring up Serenity. I want to talk about Serenity more. It's like one of my top 20 movies, maybe top 15.
Still haven't seen Serenity.
It's really good. But you haven't seen Firefly.
I did. I watched all of Firefly because you gave it to me to watch for this podcast last year.
And you watched all of it. Good. Yeah, Serenity is a great capstone to Firefly. I watched Serenity first, and so it kind of ruined it, but it was still a good standalone movie. All right. Well, that is all we've got for our show. Thank you so much, guys, for listening to us.
Wait a minute. We didn't do trivia.
I don't want to do trivia. Trivia is stupid. All right, let's do trivia.
All right, last week we talked about strongest pilot episodes, and I said for the pilot of Lost, what actor had to kind of be the last one, not the last one cast, but they had to wait for their papers to come to be able to film because they were international. And what you guys didn't hear was after we stopped recording, I gave Matt guesses. Matt guessed like 8 characters, and they were all wrong. The actual answer is
I guessed 5. All right.
Okay. They were all wrong. Is Evangeline Lilly, who played Kate, because she was Canadian.
And I would have guessed more before I guessed her.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
All right. One of these videos that we mentioned was mentioned in The Office in a scene where Michael said he had watched it about 1,000 times. So what early 2000s video phenomenon did Michael Scott watch about 1,000 times?
There you go. You can guess that. Let us know. Now, before I was so rudely interrupted, I was about to say my heartfelt appreciation to all of you guys who've been with us, especially if you've been with us for all 100 episodes.
Yes.
Maybe if you haven't listened to every single one, but you've been here since the beginning. We've made it 100 episodes. We can be syndicated now, but it's really sobering to have this much content out and to have people that still listen to us and still give us feedback. So, and who still want to be on the show too. We love having you guys with us and hope that you're enjoying the content we're putting out. We want to hear from you. Go on Facebook. Let us know how we're doing. Go on Twitter. Let us know. I know we don't use Twitter that much, but if you tweet at us, we'll be like, oh my gosh, I got a notification, and we'll respond to you. Or go on, email us at tvguyspodcast@gmail.com. Maybe we can do our own askaninja.com, except for Ask a TV Guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And next week, we're going to be continuing our ongoing series in The Office. We're going to be talking about seasons 6 and 7. We're going to be bringing back Mike and Brandon and Tammy.
Mike, Brandon, Tammy. Good group. And us.
Group. Yes, we're always here. We can never leave.
We can't. We're Mystery Science Theater 3000. We're not allowed to leave. So until next time, I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And we're reminding you to stay tuned and keep watching.